What's up, everyone? Welcome to the March 7th edition of DraftKings Tournament Plays presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at Prize Picks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. We have an 8-game NBA slate tonight. A lot of injury news that we're waiting on. A lot of teams already ruling players out, starting with the Golden State Warriors, followed by the San Antonio Spurs. Looks like we might have some more on the way. Really getting into March basketball now where it gets interesting with there always being a lot of value, a lot of very, very good plays. Tonight's no exception. As always, be sure to tune into the deeper dive and live before lock from 5 p.m. Eastern up until tip on the Awesemo YouTube channel for more up-to-date information. But for now, taking a look at 5 of the top tournament options on DraftKings as things currently stand. Starting at number 5, Nikola Jokic. $12,600 center, projected for about 9% ownership with a 12% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Jokic scored nearly 100 fantasy points last night in an overtime game, comes back tonight and gets to face the Golden State Warriors, a very shorthanded Golden State team. There's certainly some concern that maybe Jokic's rotation will be a little bit shorter, but from a tournament perspective, I'm more concerned with or thinking more about, what's it look like when he does well, because it's already clear that he's not a priority tonight in the sense of, being one of your highest exposed players or being somebody you're getting to in cash, because there are a lot of really good centers. There's a lot of value at the position, and there's also a lot of players to pay up for. So it does push, Jokic's ownership down. And that's why he's only at 9%. If this game is competitive and if he does play his normal minutes, though, you're talking about 34 to 36 minutes of someone that's averaged 1.76 DraftKings points per minute this season. Will Barton is also questionable for the Nuggets. If he's out, that opens up even more production for Jokic. So we still have a massive ceiling here, even though it's pretty difficult to prioritize getting him in lineups. Number 4, Russell Westbrook, $8,100, point guard only, projected for 6% ownership with a 12% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Westbrook, we know, just really hasn't been good this season at all, but he does still produce fantasy points at a decent clip, and his salary is falling quickly. In the games he's played without Anthony Davis and with LeBron James this season, Westbrook has averaged 1.15 DraftKings points per minute. He's averaged 33.1 minutes per game, and he has a favorable matchup tonight against the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio is a fast-paced team. They don't defend well, and the Lakers should be able to put up a lot of points here. So getting Westbrook at a reduced salary is pretty appealing, especially with the ownership being projected to be sub 10% as well. Number 3, Josh Primo, $3,300, projected for 9% ownership with a 14% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Primo has point guard and shooting guard eligibility. The Spurs are expected to be without Devin Vassell. They're expected to be without Lonnie Walker, and they're also expected to be without Keta Bates-Diop tonight. My expectation is that Josh Primo moves into the starting lineup in place of Devin Vassell. If that's the case, I expect him to get 30 to 32 minutes. Primo has averaged 0.7 DraftKings points per minute this season, but it is a favorable matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers, a fast-paced team that does not defend very well. Primo is likely to at least maintain his season average, if even moving into the starting lineup, and could possibly improve on it in this matchup. He projects as a good point per dollar option, but with as much value as we have on this slate, he's still not likely to pull that much ownership because there's just a lot of other guys that people are going to want to go to as well. Number 2, sticking with the Spurs, Keldon Johnson is a $6,300 power forward. He's projected for 13% ownership with a 15% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Johnson's playing time should be solidified by the expected absences of Bates-Diop, Walker, and Vassell. The Spurs are short on wings. They have Josh Richardson, they have Romeo Langford. These are guys that really aren't even in their rotation, though. So it's pretty likely that if this game's competitive, you get 36 minutes or so from Johnson. He's averaged 0.9 DraftKings points per minute. He should also benefit from this favorable matchup with the Lakers. And number 1, the top tournament option as things currently stand, Otto Porter is $4,600. He has small forward and power forward eligibility on DraftKings. He's only projected for 10% ownership with a 20% chance of being in the optimal lineup. I understand why Porter's ownership is relatively low. When you look at this Golden State team, there's just guys that are priorities ahead of Porter. Jordan Poole looks better. Jonathan Kuminga looks better. And Kevon Looney looks better. And, you're not going to want to go to a million guys from Golden State on a slate like this where there's so many good plays. But that does open the door for Porter's ownership to just be a little bit lower. I think his playing time is somewhat risky here. The one thing to keep in mind is Golden State does still have 10 players active. They clearly do not care about winning this game since they just flat out refused to send their 3 best players to Denver at all. So it wouldn't be shocking if maybe they, pull back on Porter's minutes a little bit here as well. But sort of like we talked about with Jokic at the beginning, I don't really care all that much about what happens if a relatively low owned guy in my tournament lineup doesn't do what I want him to do. I'm more concerned with what it looks like when they do. And Porter's not a bad point per minute guy. He's averaged 0.97 DraftKings points per minute overall this season. And if he does get, let's say, 28 minutes tonight, he still projects as a good value, even if he projects a little bit behind guys like Kuminga and Looney. The ownership here is not in line with them. For example, Kuminga is projected for 39% ownership. Porter's projected for 10. I think Kuminga is a better play. I don't think he's 4 times better, especially assuming that, Porter is in the starting lineup. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on DraftKings as things currently stand: number 5, Nikola Jokic; number 4, Russell Westbrook; number 3, Josh Primo; number 2, Keldon Johnson; and number 1, Otto Porter.